I don't know what you folks know. There's so many things in the paper there. He often mentioned to us about a man in a restaurant choking and really was in trouble. And Jim realized that he wasn't going to make it to the hospital. So he did an incision in his neck and put, as I recall, a fountain pen in there so the man could breathe, and saved his life. It's really, really. Gene and Jim would come to our place, and we'd go on tours, maybe Washington Crossing or Valley Forge or some of the historical spots. They spend maybe 4 or 5 days, and the guide invariably would say, "Where are you folks from?" Because there were maybe 10 or 12 in the group, and Jim would say, "Oh, well, I'm from California," and Gene would say, "I'm from Pennsylvania." I told that story 4 years ago when Gene passed away, but that Jim was a true, and I feel that it was our loss and your gain that he practiced medicine out here. One day, Jim and I went to our library in Southampton, Pennsylvania, where we lived, and Jim was always interested in computers, and he said, "I have something out in Redlands for the symphony." He said, I think I could bring it up on this computer." Well, by the time he finished, all the librarians were there looking at it because he had all these things out here from that computer in the library. It was really terrific. So that's one of the things. Most of the things that I think that you all know that were in the paper, so many great things that he had in his life. We had a young friend, young for us, that died some years ago at 59. And we attended the funeral and the reception afterwards. And the son-in-law said, he said, "It's not how long you lived, it's how you lived." And Jim scored a perfect 5 in that he had, in your 80s, I never expected to be 80. If you reach 80s and have a record like Jim had, it's just super. And one thing I have mentioned here, when we had new members come into the family by way of marriage, he would sit down and talk to those folks, find out what they're doing, really interested in those type of things. And so many of his classmates have called. Believe it or not, there's classmates that are that old, are still living. And Doris and Joe McKenzie couldn't make it because they were here 4 years ago. But Joe's not doing real well, and Doris felt that she shouldn't leave him. So they were sorry they couldn't be here. And then Helen has gotten calls and whatnot, and there are just about 4 or 5 I'd like to mention: Jim Stitzinger and Ted Jensen and David Courtwright. And I had a busy afternoon on Friday when everybody wanted to know how he was doing. So Friday I had to tell them the bad news. But Alice and I want to thank the family, the medical team, Helen, for all the people that were just important in Jim's life, and especially those days when I could always call Helen. 3 hours difference, I could leisurely call at 9 o'clock, and Helen was up at 6, and she could tell us how the previous day went. So thanks to all, and our family at home that couldn't make it, had words. That be sure and tell them how great and how much we miss Uncle Jim. Thank you.
Okay, this isn't going to be quite as smooth. Katie, and I'm honored to be Jim Fallow's youngest daughter. Please forgive me for reading this, but it's the only way that I can get through this. As anyone in this room knows, my dad looked at every person and every situation in a positive way. Even at his most difficult and painful times, especially this year, he would always say, "I'm a lucky guy." He was the happiest man I know because he was the most grateful man I know. He was a glass all the way full kind of guy. Dad did not like mopiness and would not like a mopey ceremony today. So to honor that, I will focus on the positive, happy attributes of this incredible human being who I am lucky enough to call my father. When I think of my dad, I think of a brilliant man with a curious nature about all things. He had a huge heart, was determined, enthusiastic, a man of service, loyal, and had the sunniest of personalities. He was the finest human being I know. Since I was the last of 4 kids with several years in between the older 3 and me, my dad was able to spend a lot of time with me growing up. My older 3 siblings had to share his enthusiasm, but I had it all to myself. Sometimes that enthusiasm could be exhausting, as it simply could not be contained. You had to be very careful about asking my dad for help with anything or asking him to join you in any of your hobbies. I remember getting mildly interested in horses when I was in junior high. Dad wanted to do anything that I wanted to do, so in no time we had the finest Arabian horses, and he was off riding treacherous trail rides with his best friend, George Ryday. His enthusiasm for all that life has to offer was one of his most endearing traits. Our dad was a man of service. He made traditional house calls during his medical practice and served on countless committees and organizations. After he retired, he then served his beloved Plymouth Village community with computer house calls, filming for PVTV, and pretty much anything anyone needed. He was tireless in his thoughts and actions about helping others. Our dad touched everyone with his sunny disposition, positive outlook, and boundless energy. Although Dad was kind to all and a man of service, mostly he was a family man. He treated each of us 4 kids like we were the most special person in the world. He appreciated each of us for our own qualities and always saw the best in us. He was a devoted husband to our wonderful mother and then to special Helen. I used to call my dad almost every day. At the end of each call, we would tell each other how much we loved each other's blue eyes, cute nose, and turned up smile. Since we looked alike, it was a little joke we had with each other. I want to end with a message to Dad. I'm honored to be your daughter. I love you with all my heart, and I'm gonna miss you, especially your blue eyes and your cute nose and your turned up smile. I love you, Dad, or you're a lucky guy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom, child number 3. I am also very honored that I gave the permission for Dad to marry Helen. This is a beautiful day in Redlands, and I know how much Dad loved this town. So it really makes me filled with joy. That such a sad occasion, but what a wonderful time to